Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Guys. Hello. Welcome to Bonded.
Sister Edition.
Oh my gosh. Should have done a harmony on that, guys.
Well, we are so excited to be back with you guys today, and we're really excited about our topic, which is the beauty of femininity. And
Beautiful it is.
Snaps for that.
I think we all express femininity in our own lives in different ways, so we have a lot to say on this topic. And I just wanted to start out by saying that femininity is just such a beautiful gift, and women were created in a special way to reflect the beautiful love of God. Femininity is something that should be treasured, cherished, protected, and so we're just going to dive in.
So the structure of how we want to have this discussion is going to have very minimal structure because we do like to keep it conversational. We're going to talk a little bit about true femininity through the eyes of faith. Okay, we want to start there. It's hard to separate that from this discussion, but then we want to spend a minute on current day chaos and then what we can do to positively contribute as women. I want you, Christina, to kind of, you were chatting, I know you have notes about the power of the feminine beauty and what powerful force that can bring into the world.
I just wanted to start out by saying, in general, women have such a gift of a very special type of self-giving, self-sacrificial love. And we see this and we recognize this most profoundly through the bearing of children and the growth and cultivation of new life in our own bodies and women's capacity to bring love into the world. And as Christians, the pinnacle of femininity that we look to according to scripture is Mary, the mother of Jesus. And by her yes and obedience to God, she brought forth the life of the Savior. And in doing so, she brought forth salvation and love into the world. And he ordained that place specially for a woman. Let's face it, God could have come into the world however he wanted to. He could have just shown up here, okay? A full-grown man.
Yeah.
You know,
that's mine. I own that. I own that.
He could have come into the world by any possible means because he is God, but he desired to come into this world through a woman, through a woman's cooperation with his beautiful plan of love for all of humanity. And all women, regardless if you're a mom, if you're a healthcare provider, if you're single and in marketing, regardless if you're a nun, if you're Mother Teresa, who never married or bore children of her own, but cultivated so many spiritual children by her sacrifice and her missionary work. So whatever your unique call is as a woman, biblically and according to scripture, our job is to ultimately receive God's will, be open to his will, say yes to him, and then bear forth that love of God in a beautiful way. And that truly changes the entire world. And I want to take us back to the beginning, the very, very beginning in the book of Genesis chapter 3, where we read that after the evil one, after Satan, the devil, tempts Eve to sin against God, we read in scripture that in Genesis 3:15, that there will be enmity between the serpent and the woman, between his offspring and her offspring. And we've been able to see throughout all of history this demonic attack on women through every age. And I believe that his intense, and it's no different today. We see true femininity and the beauty of femininity being constantly attacked, and the beauty of women being distorted in so many ways. And what it really boils down to is the fact that the enemy, the devil, knows the beauty and power and the capacity of bringing love in its fullness into this world that women have, and he tries so hard to go after it and tank it and sink that ship because he knows the power and influence that God ordained women to have in the special expression of our femininity.
Oh my gosh, like snap.
But no, that was amazing. And I think it's very poetic and like comes full circle when you talk about Eve's no to God, like Eve's no and Mary's yes. And it's like, that is how it's such a beautiful and poetic rectification of like the whole situation at hand, the fall of the world, the salvation of the world. It's like boom. See, like that's my eloquent way of summarizing that. Can I add to the attack on women though? Because there is such an attack in society on women. You have it coming from all different directions. Where I want to go kind of with this like 360 attack on women is Sister Lucia of Fatima. If you haven't watched the Fatima movie, definitely watch it. It was made in 2020, really good. But she would talk about the final confrontation between the Lord and Satan will be over family and marriage. So if we can beat down women and make them disordered, if we can beat down men and make them disordered, well, there's the tear in the family unit right there. When you're improperly ordering men in society and improperly ordering women in society, you're creating this like element of chaos, and for both men and women to feel bad because they are to a certain degree going against the nature of who they are and who they were designed to be.
I love that you brought that word chaos into it because of course, when you have this disorder, this disharmony, there is going to be a fundamental lack of peace. And we are seeing that in society. We are seeing just like the peace of family life going away. And St. Thomas Aquinas defines peace as the tranquility of order. In other words, when things are disordered, chaos is going to follow. That is going to be the natural consequence. And we know when you break down the family and you break down this family unit and children are being raised in disordered, dysfunctional homes, well, how is society going to be peaceful and functional? And how is society going to continue to improve and grow in the love of God? It's not. It's just, it's not possible when you introduce that disorder and when that disorder is perpetuated.
You know, ultimately, are we going to say yes to living our true feminine beauty, or are we going to say no? And I think where the no follows, chaos follows, and where the yes follows, order follows. And it's not to say God has a plan for every person's life, whatever it is. Like living out God's purpose for your life will fulfill you. And your feminine beauty will be what empowers you to do that. Diving into like, what is feminine beauty and what makes us unique from men and what is our special role in society that cannot be replaced. I think like you guys both mentioned, and I haven't even mentioned yet, and I'm a mom, but like bearing children, that is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think there is a lot of just attack and negative talk on that because once you do it, and the devil knows this, once you experience this, it is beyond hard to deny miracles, to deny God, to deny an ultimate designer of life. If you've been pregnant, you know there is so much going on every single day in your body to create and cultivate that life. And to deny it all, that there's not a divine designer, a creator, someone fostering this life. And rather, I was the vessel that brought her into this world.
Yes. In describing, of course, bearing children as you just did, we're designed to be this gift of ourselves to those around us. Like just the very nature of being a woman and expressing this love for our family, for our friends. It is in giving the gift of ourselves that we receive the best gifts possible. Whereas the society that we live in pushes this selfishness on women. And I'm single. Like I'm not married yet. Like I have not entered into that vocation. I'm a single woman. I'm a healthcare provider. And I feel like in my 30s, I'm learning probably more than I've ever learned in my life to best express that gift of femininity. So no matter what your calling is, whether you've born children or not, you can certainly express that gift.
What we really want to drive home is that if God's calling on your life is to be CEO of a Fortune 500 company, then that will fulfill you. If God's calling on your life is to be a mother, be a homemaker, have children, homeschool, live with this beautiful, like bake bread, being like that homemaker, then that is a beautiful thing. And living out that calling on your life will fulfill you. I think that the current social climate, though, is forcefully telling women that kids are a burden, kids hold you back, oh, monogamy, that's not real. Oh, like it's just all these lies that are being sold to women, and we're buying it, right? Because it's being propped up, it's trendy, you get praise for it, you know. Poor Harrison Butker had such an incredible, amazing, powerful, pro-women speech where he really put his wife on a pedestal, ultimately said he can't do what he does without her doing what she does. And yet somehow
This was
people,
misinterpreted.
yeah,
Or
it's
taken
people are up in
wrong
arms
way.
about it. And they're just receiving so much hate.
It's so sad. And once again, there is this heated division when it's completely unnecessary. Like the roles of men and women are different. Like, let's face it, they are. And they are given different gifts and talents and characteristics that are inherent to each of them by the creator. And it's not that one is more important than the other. They are both equal in their dignity and in their status before God. And we allow each other, when we are living respectively in our masculine and feminine, we allow each other to be the fullness of the gift that God created us to be for the world.
I also think, like, based on some of the things I was seeing, like the comments and things like that, like every person has a purpose, you know, even outside of just being a mom. I mean, obviously that's a beautiful, beautiful part about the beauty of femininity and being a woman, like, and let's not devalue that. But I think he's not saying just stay in the. So many people were mad because it's like they think he's saying stay in the kitchen. But if that is what a woman wanted to do, what if that was one woman's dream, but it's not the other woman's dream? Well, that's okay. Like, why is the idea of being a mom or a stay-at-home mom, for some reason that seems to like be very frowned upon? And like, every woman is gonna have her own goals or her own like prerogative, and that's okay.
I think being truly feminine, it's not about being a doormat. It's not about being a pushover.
No way.
It's not about letting men trample all over you. No.
And I might be hopping to my point a little too soon, but I have to, like, just what you just said just now, like, that it's not about like being a doormat, right? Back 1950s, let's go way back, right? Like, and I feel like when I talk about my traditional thought process and values, sometimes it's like people say it's not the 1950s anymore, it's 2024. Well, why did everybody seem like really happy back then? Like really at peace? Like it's just seemed like a lot of people will say like a better time. Now women are pulled in like 10 different directions too. We're living in such a chaotic society, and like there so much more is demanded of them. Whereas back in the day, I think it was a little more simply laid out. And still though, even though they weren't necessarily maybe corporate bosses, there might have been a lot more like stay-at-home moms back in the day, they still, like, the way they carried themselves was like true femininity, like in those days, like the way they dressed, the way they spoke, the way, like, the poise they had, like just everything. Yeah, I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
No, I completely agree. And I sent you both a video where it's men talking about separating like attraction and lust, right? Because like you can be attracted to a woman and like want to know her mind, want to know who she is, want her to bear your future children, or you can be lustful after a woman and just be like, I just want her, and then to be done with her. And I feel like what you're saying, like, I don't mean to like turn it into modesty, but I do feel like there was actually more of a respect men had for women back in the era you're talking about. Even so much as like when a woman would walk in a room, a man would like stand up, he would tip his hat, like, you know,
my gosh,
chivalry existed a lot more. They'd get doors, things like that. It just seemed like that was more prevalent. And I think something we can tie that to is modesty. It's like, how do you expect to be treated if you are walking around like you're a piece of meat? Like, I'm sorry, but like everything is on display. Like, you're only as good as your body looks. And that's like just fundamentally not true.
But it contributes to this dysfunction. And I just want to also tie in here that the virtue of modesty does not just pertain to what we wear. It's also in our speech. And
vulgarity.
Yes. So in other words, by our thoughts, acts, words, we should be demanding this respect in how we carry ourselves and how we present ourselves.
I just want to say, being the youngest of the bunch and sometimes being a little immature in my thought process, like it's something I struggle with. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm on my high horse that, I always dress perfectly modest and I never curse. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm perfect in all those ways. But as I get older, it is starting to strike me harder and make more sense in my brain as to why I should apply those things more if I can. Because you don't really think about how you're being perceived. You might just think, oh, this is cute and I look hot and I just want to show off what I've been working on in the gym. You know, like sometimes it's more, I know a lot of women will say, well, I don't do it for males, I do it for myself. And like, I trust me, I understand that mentality, but also too, like, I agree when you're dressed classy and to like attract a man with your true beauty, you know what I mean? Like
the purpose of modesty is to reflect the beauty and the dignity of your femininity. Like that our outside should reflect this inherent beauty and dignity that should be respected. And let's know how to live out and respect our own femininity and what a beautiful gift that is.
Well, you know, I sorry, I'm gonna interrupt, but I noticed that when I did start applying, like maybe not cursing as much or maybe trying to dress a little bit, I do feel like softer from doing, I don't know how to explain that. Like
your
just
soft
like
girl era.
You
yeah,
feel
like
that
the
you're
soft girl era. Like I like
cultivating that sense of femininity,
Yes,
and maybe
exactly.
even recognizing that gift more as you are trying to live out those
Nurture
things. Nurture it.
Hard to separate. Like I see where we're going down a couple different roads in this episode, and it's just very hard to separate femininity from many a things. I'm realizing how interconnected femininity is. And I'm sure if we did an episode on masculinity, it would be the same. Very
Yes.
interconnected into
Yes.
the state of society and
And I also want to say, in being a woman and living out femininity in its truest sense, we are being called to raise that standard for men and demand our femininity be respected by the true expression of masculinity in men, right? I just want to make the caveat that we're not called to just like settle for any type of love to be mothers and wives, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I actually, in our research, I listened to a video last night, and this is taking us down another rabbit hole, but it was a nun giving a talk on true femininity, and in it she says, it's better to be lonely than to be used. And I was like, wait, I need to hear that line again.
that's good.
And we talked about this in our modern dating episode, but this unfortunate objectification of women that's going on so many levels. We have to raise the standards.
and all that's going to do is just cultivate a deeper self-love within the woman, by having that standard and by not settling and by saying, if this means a period of my time, I have to be in this I have to be alone. I'm going to stick it out because I don't want to settle, and I want the man that's going to truly make me feel like I'm my best self and in my feminine and all of that, whatever that means to each individual woman too. So I think that's just I feel like, and even myself, wanting to, I feel like a lot of people want control, so they make relationships work, instead of listening to that nun's advice and just, hey, if I'm not supposed to be with this person right now and I see all the writing on the wall, let me just go maybe be alone and be with myself.
I guess I want to talk a little bit about what we can do to best live in our feminine, and what are things we can anchor to when we think about drawing closer to our feminine. And I think something I just want to even add to is the whole point of this episode is to put on a pedestal the feminine beauty and the uniqueness that women bring. We are the glue that holds families together. We set the tone in society. We set that bar. We set that standard. And the world is leading us down a path that belittles women and that brings us to this low point of we are,
And tries to suppress
we're
that
for
gift.
utility. We're for utility. That's a word that comes to mind. And so how do we, maybe change our frame of thinking? I mean, I think some things we mentioned today was how we present ourselves, right, to society, to others, how we uphold our dignity, our self-worth, and demand respect. I think a lot of that comes from how you speaking with grace and dressing in such a way where maybe a man wants to get to know your mind or your heart or your thoughts versus just your body. So not necessarily putting that front and center on display. Do you guys have anything else we didn't mention that can help prop women up in society?
I think that as Catholic Christian women and women of faith, really going to God in prayer to help us know our worth as women and to rest and receive that love from God, put ourselves in position to be open to Him. There's such a beauty in women where we have this openness. We're these vessels, like you said, and allowing God and His Spirit to fill us and to lead us in whatever calling that might be. So to me, the two, femininity and the creator of it, are inseparable.
Love that.
I don't know. I guess I would say this is I don't know if this is advice, but I would just say, like, I do feel like society is suppressing some of the main beautiful things that women can do and bring to the table, or just like, saying it's not important, or like just the overall tone isn't great sometimes. And just looking at all you do bring to the table. Don't like, I say this a lot, just don't sell yourself short as a woman. All it's going to do is help you have that self-love more and help others respect you more, and just all of it. So my big overall message to women is just don't sell yourself short. Like, embrace those things that make you the powerful woman that you are.
And I think this is a really good quote to...
All right. Fulton Sheen. When a man loves a woman, he has to become worthy of her. The higher her virtue, the more noble her character, the more devoted she is to truth, justice, goodness, the more a man has to aspire to be worthy of her. The history of civilization could actually be written in terms of the level of its women. Fulton Sheen. And I like how he talks about character there. Like, good character is something that is priceless.
He says
it's a gem.
The history of civilization could actually be written in terms of the level of its women. The history of civilization. That is a man talking about the importance of women, and vice versa. We should be also talking about the importance of good men in society. It's just, it's a beautiful quote.
Both ideals of femininity and masculinity are irreplaceable.
I think that's gonna wrap up today's episode.
But
lots of fundamental truths to unveil.
I think we talked about doing this topic, and we all felt convicted that it was something that we should talk about as women and weigh in on, and just share really encouragement with other women of just how critical and fundamental you are in the beautiful plan of God.
All right, guys, I think that's a wrap.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.